So I'm waiting for them to be ahead so I don't want them to see me. So then I just walk a few steps because I can't walk anymore. I'm like, man, I can't do it anymore, you know? And finally Govinda Swami turns around and he looks at me and he said, he comes over, of course, gives me one of his big Govinda Swami bear hugs and all. He said, oh, what's happening right here? He says, we're done. He said, you just got a few more to do. He said, just finish for the day, we're done. I said, okay. So then even we got to the beginning of Kusum Sarovar, so of course the water's right there, so we're all going to take a swim. And like, I'm just ready to just fall into this water, my body can't even move. And he said, and we're going around to the backside, and it's like another couple hundred feet. And I'm like, man, you gotta be kidding. So then I had to drag my butt to the backside, and the old time in Kusum Sarovar. So that was the end of that day. So they take off. I get on my scooter. It's a 5-minute ride down the road where I'm living in Govardhan. And you know, I get out, my wife greets me at the door, and I look like I had just, you know, been through, I don't know what, you know, I got mud all over me, I got dog poo down here on my pants that I couldn't get off because I laid in it. I just, and I mean, she literally, it was like what I did for Prabhupada. So they carried me to the bathroom, and unfortunately I had a day rest. So then I got there the second day, or it was the third day. It was the second day of doing it with a day in between. And the mother was like, "Well, you made it. I didn't think you were going to make it." And Govinda slaps him in the head. I knew he was coming. Each day got easier. And the third day, like the second day, we stopped at Manasaganga. That's the next. It's another 2 kilometers, just over 2 kilometers. So it's another couple thousand times laying down, you know. And the only reason I did it is because I felt an obligation, because I lived there. So I wanted to. I had no, because usually you make a very special request from Govardhan. It's quite a brat to do. But I didn't know what to ask for. I was already living in Govardhan. So what am I going to ask for? So I just said thank you, because it was finally the first time I did anything there of any. So each day got a little easier, and it took 9 days it took. And it was like 5 hours a day with a 10-minute break in between after each hour. And the last day it was, you went around Radhika, and that was like your last day. And then the next day you walked around the entire Govardhan Hill, you know, that, just to finish it. And the day we ended, it was Prabhupada's disappearance day, somehow or other. Because the first 3 days we did it, you know, a day in between, and then Govinda Swami said, I have many disciples coming. He said, I have programs. He said, we have to wrap this up. So we did it every day after that. So it was amazing how it worked. I couldn't have done it the next day, but it worked. You know, like everything was perfect. So anyway, that got done that evening. I gave a class. Radhanath Swami's group was there at Govardhan Hill. His thousands of people were, you know, they were all over every ashram in Govardhan. So he had me give the class that evening, Prabhupada's disappearance day, at the end of that, you know, this program I did. So anyway, if the next year went by and suddenly I had to leave Govardhan. So I made this arrangement, and my wife's requested. You know, we had a pack, we had like a dozen trunks now. We had lived there for 2 years, and all of a sudden we had to put them somewhere. So I made a deal with her. If there was time, I said, we'll go look for Govardhan. And as it came, Panchagoda, the president, sent the truck. Of course, the truck only held half of them. So all of a sudden, we had 2 hours with nothing to do. So we walked across the hill. Oh, not across the hill, I'm sorry. We walked up the Govardhan Hill, and she's looking over there, and I'm over here. And she's... You know, I don't even know what we were doing, you know, but she's looking, and then I saw him, and I picked him up, and I said, this is who I've been looking for. Like, I was looking for this, that very particular shape. I just wanted Govardhan, I wanted to remember Govardhan Hill, you know, that was, so I needed to find Govardhan Hill. That's who I was looking for, that form. And I found him. Or he found me finally. So then we took him back, and
I think 4 years ago. So anyway, since that time, since the death of my wife and I got married, it's just been Govardhan. That was it. So now we're headed. So it took 7 years to get a U.S. passport and a visa for India that we could actually stay there. So from the very beginning, 7 years, we've been wanting to get back to Vrindavan and Govardhan. So it's been a long haul and wonderful. And in the meantime, I've been in Govardhan, been with Govardhan. So. And he's taken very good care of me from the very moment we entered Govardhan. So it's been a very different chapter of my life. And now it looks like we're going back on the road a little bit. Welcome everyone. We started early here this evening with a group of us who didn't get out on Hari Nam. Anyway, I just told them some different things. But well, this is the very last evening, and it's almost 8 o'clock. You can go 9 or so if you like. Does anyone have any things they want to ask in particular before we get started? Maharaj, do you have anything here? Uh-oh. Well, you already started the ball rolling. Yeah, microphone, please. Let's do this. Is there a working microphone we can give them? I'm sure it will be. I know you pretty well. I see how you deal with your with your servant there. That's all right. I'm very good at embarrassing myself. So, as a smart man once said, I don't need any help embarrassing myself. Yes, what's your question or statement about my life? Oh, thank you. This was the story I was telling a year ago on my birthday when I had my seizure. This is the story I was telling. So if anything happens, just lay me out. This is 1975. I'm at Krishna Balaram Mandir, and I'm massaging Prabhupada. So it was always the same. We just had a gumsha, and they were short gumshas. They would come right from the waist to the knee. Prabhupada generally had this red gumsha. He had a couple red gumshas, so we just rotated them. And they would get very oily, and they get a lot of oil. And that was another process. One time he looked at me, he said, is anyone washing these things? So they were bright red and white. And, absent-minded, unconscious. Like days went on, and the laundry's going out, and of course the devotee's putting them in the washing machine, just like covered in, these things thick in mustard oil. And she's just putting them in, and who knows, doing cold water or what. Anyway, they weren't coming out nice, but all I knew was they were getting washed. So I didn't go beyond that. They were getting washed, folded, ironed, everything. So then one day, he's like, is anyone washing these things? And I'm like, yes, Prabhupada. He said, look at it. I mean, instead of red and white, it was now maroon and gray. Dark gray. The white was dark gray. And I said, I'll take care of it, Prabhupada. So after that bath that day, I went in and he had his bathroom sink. So I just put the thing down, a little pluggy thing, and threw in some washing stuff. And I'm beating it like I learned in India now. I knew all the process. So I'm like, it's like everything, and rinsing it, and it was like brilliant. I was like, wow, it was brand new. I'd never seen it look like this. So the next day, got the gumsha on the bed. He puts it on. He's like, whoa. He said, this is nice. He's like all excited. Like two little boys now, like over this gumsha. This shiny, bright white gumsha. He said, he said, did you do this? I said, yes, Prabhupada. He said, just see. Just see, he said. Very good. He was just happy. Imagine just making your guru happy with such a simple thing, Anyway, 1975, I'm massaging Prabhupada in his gumsha. So you can see from the knee down, you can see Prabhupada. And if my knees aren't tucked in, you can also see my legs and my feet, which I never showed the Prabhupada, my feet. In massaging, I always, cover them like I should. So then, but I'm massaging him, I'm beside him, I would massage his belly sometimes. He had a big belly. He never told me not to, he never told me to do it. I don't know if massaging his stomach was of any use. He had a little Brahmin belly, he said in the day. But it was fun. I thought maybe if I kept rubbing it, something might happen. You rub it long enough, somebody else would appear. Maybe Krishna would appear. No, I never thought like that. But anyway, it sounded good. It sounded good right then. So I'm like rubbing his legs. He would put his legs out, and you kneaded it. It was like kneading a chapati dough. He liked the pressure. Breaks up the crystals and everything that form. But I see him, and he's staring right at my foot. I could see it, just like that. So I put my gumshoe, but it was too late. He looks at me. He said, "Your mother?" He said, "Is she beautiful?" And I'm like, now I'm 23. So let me see. My mother's like 55 now. So of course, I'm a 23-year-old boy. 50. No one 55 is beautiful at that time of your life. She's looking at me like, he's got such nerve, And I said, of course I answered in just that way. I said, "Yes, Prabhupada, she was very beautiful." And he said, I was wondering. He said, "I'm curious." He says, "Because I'm looking at your feet." And he said, "Your feet are very pretty." And he said, "I've been told that if your feet are pretty, it means your mother is beautiful." He said, "So I wanted to see if it was accurate." I was telling that story a year ago, and I almost died. Anyway, we made it past it this time, so Hare Krishna. I wouldn't mind. It's always, certainly you want to go in the association of devotees, so anytime you're around devotees is fine by me. So that was a very pleasant exchange. Again, that was just to see how Prabhupada was so to say that to me, how embarrassing that was, looking at my feet. You stop looking now. So, thank you, Maharaj. Now that's a nice story. Now you're going to make me cross my legs and they're going to hurt when I'm done. Anything else? Any other special questions? Imagine, if I can answer it with a Prabhupada answer, I will. I try very, very hard. I never make anything up. Anything I say are not exaggerations. When I describe Prabhupada saying, read these books, just one book, they're very accurate. Yes, Maharaj.
I don't know if you were here, but there's one story where Prabhupada, the toilet broke, and Prabhupada asked to get the toilet fixed. You know that one?
Mm-hmm.
No, the toilet itself was no longer flushing.
I was in Hawaii. Yes, I was there. Yes.
So, could you tell that one?
Yeah.
That's
Talk about skeptical. And we had a boy, one of the devotees, brahmachari, I can't remember his name, but he was he knew plumbing. Anyway, I'm Prabhupada's servant at the time there in Hawaii in his quarters. And to this day, the toilet's the same in Prabhupada's quarters. I think Govinda Dutt just got it working. We keep Prabhupada's quarters there. I think he finally got it working properly. It would be one of those slow emptiers, Anyway, Prabhupada rings his bell. I go in the room. He says, the toilet's not working properly. He said, fix it. So I tell temple president. So this boy he sends up. So, after 10 minutes, we go into Prabhupada's room, sitting room, and he says, Prabhupada, it's done. Prabhupada says, how do you know? He says, well, I flushed it, it's working. He says, yeah, but how do you know it's working? So he wanted to see it work. Not that it just flushed water. I'm laughing because I never realized how funny Prabhupada was. He says, go down to the kitchen and make a chapati dough. And flush it. So that's what we did. I'm sorry. You guys have been too much, you know, I'm like way gone here. So that's what he did. We made a chapati dough. It didn't even have to go through the process of cooking. We just made it and flushed it right down. Imagine all the time we saved in cooking, offering, eating, digesting, and doing the exact same thing. And Prabhupada was a genius. Siddhanta, you're going to have to get this clip, you know. He wanted to see it would go down, and it did. So Prabhupada, he was not a blind follower. He had proof. I mean, he wanted the proof. And we proved it to Prabhupada. But one morning in Hawaii, 1 o'clock in the morning, the servants' quarter, you've been there, right next door to the door opened in the Prabhupada's sitting room. Well, he had a big sitting room, bedroom. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and he rings the bell, and I hear it. I'm like very conscious, you know. And so I go in, offer obeisance. I offer obeisance. There's this big mass of cassette tape all over his desk, down on the floor. From his, it wasn't cassette, it was his little dictaphone machine, so there were 2 little reels, but in fact it looked like a cassette, you know, the tape. Those my age can remember those days when these machines would eat the cassette tapes, and they're just all over. And if you were really missing that particular cassette, you would put a pencil into the cassette thing, and you would walk around the room and like that. So now I'm there, and I sit up, and I just look at Prabhupada, and he just gives me that look, like a 6-year-old, and says, I don't know what happened. Like, not me. You know, I heard my granddaughter, she was 4 years old at our house one time, and there was a puzzle. We were all making a puzzle together. Anyway, it got kind of unmade. And I said, what happened? Before I could get the words out, she said, not me. And that's what it was like, probably, not me. He said, I don't know what happened. He said, can you fix it? And I said, I think so, Prabhupada, because I had a lot of training in rolling those cassettes. And that's what I did. I literally got a pencil, and I went around, and I got the reel, and I got it on the reel, and I had the pencil in the reel, and I had to roll the tape, because it was recorded on there. There were Prabhupada's words on this tape. So I spent a half an hour, and I'm back and forth, and I got it back on, and he put it on his desk, and he tried it, and everything was fine. And I said, okay, go back to bed. Or take rest, he would say. I was always go take rest. And I went back and took rest. One time we're walking around in Hawaii, beautiful, 3 acres Ambarish bought for Prabhupada in 1974. So Prabhupada would always walk around. There's one picture is like the classic, it's this big in the foyer of the temple room with Prabhupada under the banyan tree surrounded by like a dozen of us. And the banyan tree then was like 100 feet wide, and it just 40 years later, they spend $20,000 trimming it back so the neighbors don't get angry with us. It's this immense, beautiful, beautiful place. It is Hawaii Temple. And we're having our 50th anniversary, January. Martin Luther King, it's like the 15th. Check it out on your calendar. And you should all come. Everyone is invited. We're going to try to get everyone's had anything to do with the temple. Yes, It's part of the Martin Luther King parade. We're like, you know, it's a series of whatever trucks and things. It's Hawaii. And then we're like, generally they put us right at the end, which is the best thing. And then we have a festival at the park, right at the ocean there at the end of Waikiki. Ambarish and his wife will be coming this year. It's, you know, it's his place. To this day, it's his place. Praise the Lord for that, because it wouldn't be our place if it wasn't still his place over all these years. So he's walking around his property now, and it's messy. Hawaii, you spend all your day cutting back. It's not trying to have things grow, it's trying to have things not grow too much. That's Hawaii, including Tulsi Devi. She's amazing in Hawaii. We were in a place, we went away for 2 months, and I actually even had someone to live there, and they didn't stay after a month. Anyway, a Tulsi grew out of a crack while we were in India, between two cinder block pieces, but it was just sandy in between. And by the time we got back after 2 months, she was 4 feet high, like that, you know? And within a year, of course, she was 8 foot high. And after we stayed there for 2 years, because after 1 year we wanted to leave because the landlord lived literally like 5 feet away from our window. And he let us know that it was intolerable. But we wouldn't leave because we had Tulsi in the ground. And we figured she was so big we couldn't transplant her, and we didn't want to leave her there for him to do who knows what there. So we stayed an extra year, which was even more horrible. And anyway, we got freed from the place. And of course, my wife says, she's coming. We're not leaving Tulsi here. And I'm like, she's not gonna, you know, me, I'm ultimate, just, you know, can't do anything. You know, I, of course, lost. And we bring Kavi over, my godbrother from the temple. He's the only devotee, he's 50% Hawaiian, Kavi. And he's still in the temple there now. Anyway, he comes over with another boy, and there's Madung Gopal. You were there? Yeah, there he is right there. Madung Gopal was there, and him and Kavi, they took her out of the ground. She had the, what's the main root called? It has a name, it's the one main root. Well, that was like, yeah. Taproot. Yeah, taproot. Whoever, if that's what you said, I'm sorry I didn't hear. But yeah, taproot it's called. So we, you know, they were able to get that, and we brought her to our new place in a big pot. Her and her other manifestation, which was, you know, growing in a nice area. So they both came, and they're still both with us to this day. So she survived, and of course my wife was correct, and everything worked out, and she's supplying manjaris to Govardhan every day. So all is well. And she's grown back quite a lot, but she still is strong growing. And what has been cut back is in a nice box, and they're going to become japa beads someday. So she's just going to stay. Anyway, that's Hawaii. You have to try to keep things from growing, especially Tulsi, because you can have 20 of them all of a sudden, and they're not little plants. I mean, these, she loves Hawaii. And so I guess just to be there, it seems fortunate, doesn't it, as far as Tulsi goes, and there's no shortage. I once put something on Facebook. I said, I have so many manjaris, anyone wants seeds? And everyone did, and then I realized you're not allowed to do it. So that you know, legally you can't do it, so that was the end of that. So Prabhupada's walking around, and he's looking at this nasty property, and we're living in a community, very well-to-do area, very middle class, and mostly they're Japanese, or other varieties of Asian, but mostly Japanese and Chinese, and they're meticulous. They go out in their gardens, they'll spend their whole day, when, you know, the elders, the grandmoms and all them grandpops, they'll spend their whole day with their hats on, just picking the weeds and nurturing everything, cleaning everything. And then there's us, the Hare Krishnas, on this 3-acre gorgeous property, and it, you know, it's beautiful, but kind of like if you ever go to Vancouver Temple, the property is beautiful, but it could be so much more, you know, if we knew how to do things. And it's still to this day, Hawaii is like that. And Prabhupada says, why? He said, everywhere's so nice. He said, why? So many leaves, why is it so dirty? And the temple president looks at him, and Prabhupada's surrounded. There's like 20 of us now on this walk, 2 in the afternoon. And he says, Prabhupada, we don't have enough people. looks and he sees all these devotees. And he goes, what do you mean, not enough devotees? And he's looking at all his disciples, trying to figure out what is wrong with you people. That was a recurring theme with Prabhupada. He did the same thing in Miami. He said, everywhere is so nice. Abhiram had thrown, he brought in dried leaves because there was only dirt and stuff on the property, so he covered it with the leaves. So Prabhupada complained that the leaves were on. But then when he heard a lawnmower cutting the lawn, he complained about that. He said, you should do it. He said, but not while I'm here. He said, I can hear the grass crying. This was Prabhupada. He suffered through this place having to deal with all of us crazies, But he said, I hear it crying. Like he said, he saw the bead bags crying, hanging by themselves with no one to take care of their beads. He saw plates of prasadam. He said, who left their plate crying? And Prabhupada saw a lot of tears. That's why I said I always saw them, and I started that telling my first meeting. From the first time I saw Prabhupada, all you did was see his eyes sparkling with tears. Like no one you ever saw. Always had that look, that it was on the verge of crying, Prabhupada. Happy tears, not bad tears. in ecstasy, Prabhupada. Okay. Should I just begin? What were we going to talk about, Siddhanta? I'll ask you. What were we going to discuss this evening? Do you remember?
Okay, were you in the room with Prabhupada when he left?
No. No, I saw him in September for 2 weeks, or 2 months before.
That would have been a nice time.
Yes. In those kind of things, in a way, I think it was things that were meant to be. Again, I see Prabhupada, here and there sometimes when I'm sleeping, sometimes very, very significant. Short, not that there's big exchanges, but I really feel he's there. So that's how I see him. I think of, I guess it's a strange thing to say, but not being with him, I have such a wonderful vision of my time with him and how I see him, which is how we all see him. These are not, even now, today, sometimes some of these people and these devotees, they put pictures of, these devotees that have died, and I think, do they want that? Do we get any privacy anymore? So anyway, after that, just like I basically, went out of ISKCON in '83, and I missed a whole hullabaloo of difficulties. So I was experiencing my own challenges in family life, but I was very much freed from the difficulties with ISKCON, I think, which saved me. It saved me to be able to do what I'm doing, be part of ISKCON instead of feeling that thing so many devotees feel, so many of our God brothers still feel to this day. And I wish, they didn't have to feel it. Wish they could understand the way I feel, that none of that matters. It's just an organization. It's not guru-disciple. It's not an eternal relationship with your spiritual master. It's just a few days we're all here together, Because can't we all just get along, So that's what I've arrived at this point. I have no issues with anyone. I'll do whatever I can. You hear me speak, I'll stand for Prabhupada all the time. But ultimately, Prabhupada said we all have the same goal, and we have to respect one another for that. Our challenges, we're all working according to our capacity. It's one of my favorite sayings of Prabhupada. You'll find it many, many times. Everything's according to our capacity. So, as I say to some, we have to take it easy even on ourselves. What to speak of everyone else? Then we should just let them free to serve in their way. But ourselves, sometimes we also have to take it easy on, because that's another form of Maya. It just keeps us out of devotee association and Prabhupada's light, His mercy.
Yesterday did you talk about Madhavisa? You flew back with Madhavisa when Prabhupada?
Yeah.
Did you discuss that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you tell him how we shaped up at the train station or?
No, I didn't describe. Well, we met. Well, we were on the plane together. No, you can describe it.
Well, were you also with him in the room when he met
Prabhupada. I was with him when he met Prabhupada.
Well, I'll just say one thing and then you can carry on.
Okay.
That Madhavisa had left, and married, he had a child on the way, and he let his hair grow.
Yeah.
But when he came to see Prabhupada on Prabhupada's request, he realized that he couldn't see Prabhupada with long Hawaiian hippie hair. So he shaped up at the train station or on the street, or
just a quick
the barbers, right? And he had a really long seeker.
It was like this big.
Yeah.
Not that it was long. It was half of his head. He let his seeker be.
So Madhavisa told me that when he first entered the room and paid his obeisances to Prabhupada, Prabhupada said, "Oh, Madhavisa, you're keeping such a nice long seeker." He knew, of course, that it was.
Yeah, that it was. Well, because the head's white, like like a rasgulla, It was like a big rasgulla with a sika on it. So there's no, you can't fake that.
So that's Prabhupada.
Prabhupada he was detective, yeah. Prabhupada knew very quickly what's going on.
But how did Prabhupada greet Madhavisa?
Well, so then we both offer our obeisances, and we're both first thing, he looks at me, and I'm holding that. I was describing that this was the carved candle business days. So in Hawaii, we had our own carved candles. So I brought Prabhupada one of these carved decorative candles, that you dip and dip. They were big money makers. And I gave it to Prabhupada. So that's one of the first things he said to you Americans. He says, you know how to make money, because the saying, you make this thing, you sell it for $20, it's worth like $1. Of course, devotees were free. So it was like, we're making so much money for the temple. So he said, you know how to make money, he said. And then he looks at me and he says, so you've married again? Yes, Prabhupada. And then that was the end of that. And then he looks at Madhavisa and he said, so? He said, now, you're a grahasta? He said, like Srutakirti? I was the example for Hanuman as well when he, left and got married. He said, he said, now you're a grahasta like Srutakirti? He said, so you go on in your service in that way. And he said, you just arrived? He said, so, you can take a shower, get prasadam, and I'll see you. But he's lying in bed. I mean, he's, literally was skin and bone. I mean, that's when I went in and saw him. I was in shock. I stayed for 2 weeks. Upendra was there. He was Prabhupada's servant over, different times. He was his servant way back in '70. And we were very good friends. Him and I were very close. And, we just did everything together then during those days. So I got to stay there for a few weeks. And then, that was the time Prabhupada was wanting to go to England. He said, if I go there, and then I'll go to the West. And he was saying, they all, that will encourage me, So that was the plan. And of course, Tamal was there, and he says, well, Prabhupada, we have to get everything in order. Like Prabhupada, when he wanted to do something, it was like, let's go. There was no hanging around. So, Tamal was in anxiety because Prabhupada was able to go, but for some reason, he couldn't get out so quickly or something. And so I'm sitting there, and Prabhupada's sitting up in the bed, and he said, well then, he said, Srutakirti, he can come. He says, he knows everything. I mean, it was the sweetest thing I could hear. Of course, there was not any question that was going to happen, especially with Tamal, and I'm sure Prabhupada didn't even consider that it was going to happen. Maybe he did, I don't know, but he said it. So when I heard that, he said, oh, Srutakirti's here, he's fine, he'll do everything. He said, he can come, he's free to go. So I was like, so he got everything in order, which I guess Prabhupada knew how to motivate us. You know, that was also it too. You know, there's motivational tools, and Prabhupada was a motivator, but only motivational is all Krishna. Krishna, everything was Krishna. There was it wasn't smoke and mirrors about Krishna. It was very direct. Krishna. First thing I learned in that garden before I was his servant, you know. He's looking at 6 of us, you know, all 20 years old, 19, 21, 6 of us sitting before him. All of us have been there a month or 2 or 6. And what color is Krishna? Imagine him asking such a question. So see, I learned right away, Prabhupada is a trickster. He comes from a long line of tricksters, starting with the original one, with the crooked locks. That's why they're called crooked. Krishna's curls are crooked. So Prabhupada comes in that line. So as soon as he said that, I don't know anything, but I know I'm not putting my hand up. So finally the boy goes, it describes in Krishna book. You know, he was a lot smarter than me because he picked philosophy. He picked Prabhupada's book, Krishna book. It describes in Krishna book, blackish, like the rain cloud. You know, Prabhupada shakes his head. I knew something was up, you know. And then he looks at us. He says he's blue like the sky. He pointed up. A nice day in LA, the sky was blue. Imagine, you can't go on a day without seeing Krishna. He said the sky is blue because of Krishna's effulgence. That's how he taught us to see Krishna. How easy it is. You know, if you're waiting for him to just drop down out of the sky, it's not going to happen. Well, maybe it will if you get that kind of mercy. But you have to start to see him in everything. Smell him in everything. Taste him. That's what Prabhupada did. He tasted him, he smelled him. I would bring his little jasmine flower, night jasmine it was called. The fragrance, if you haven't experienced it, you should. You have to put yourself in front, find one where there is in your neighborhood, look it up in Google or something, and wait for the evening and sit in front of it and smell. The fragrance is amazing. So Prabhupada had one outside in his garden. It's like vine, it grows kind of viney, it spreads out, very bushy. So the one night he said, he would say every night I would get a sprig, you know, because it grew in like bunches. So I'd get a whole bunch of it. He would wait, like all of a sudden it would just manifest as it got dark. And I'd put it on his pillow, and then he would lie down at night, and I'd massage him. And he would lie there, and he would just smell it next to his head. So the one night he's lying there, and I'm massaging, and he says, "This is Krishna." So again, he showed me how to see Krishna, how to smell Krishna. Last one was seeing Krishna. Now he showed me how to smell Krishna. We all know how to taste Krishna. We all know that. How to see him. So that's the process. And then you start to see how he's directing you like a puppet if you let him. Instead of thinking, I'm going to do this, and we work so hard, and all of a sudden something else is going on, and you just relax. And then everything is getting manipulated in a good way, not in a bad way, in a way that's the proper way. And even if you fight it and fall off, you're always getting offered all these opportunities to follow the leader. And we started, Prabhupada's very first words when I was his servant. Picked up the lota, he said, "Follow me." So that flute being played, we have to learn how to follow the flute player. You got to listen. Prabhupada gives so many hints, so many ways, easy ways to understand Krishna. Maharaj? No, hey. Thank you for being here, Maharaj.
Prabhupada's favorite Krishna.
Every everything, anywhere. Prabhupada liked varieties. Of course, we know he grew up as Kachori Mukhi. And, all right. The most wonderful trip I had with Prabhupada, and again, as I go along, I feel things more and more. And these are my feelings. But different people tell me I should share them. So anyway, we left India. In 2 months, Prabhupada went around the world and wound up in Mayapur. And, geez, where was I going with this? So anyway, I'm sorry what my point was in this whole thing. So I'll just start at the beginning. But what I saw, Prabhupada went into ecstasy 3 different times. He did it in Caracas, he did it in Atlanta, and he did it in Mayapur. As he was traveling around 1975, it's February, it's chilly, we went through Hawaii. So he's seeing everything now. But this is his first trip through the South America. And everywhere he goes, they have Gaur Nitai. And he's talking about Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya, how merciful they are. And it's very obvious he's becoming very overwhelmed at times. And he's stopping, getting tears in his eyes. He's witnessing what he did, a few years later. He's in Mexico City, there's 500 devotees all of a sudden. He's seeing what he's accomplished. Of course, he's offering everything. He sees what Lord Chaitanya, what Lord Nityananda are doing, how they've opened it. In Caracas, he said, sitting there, he's got tears, he's saying, they have traveled very far to come to you. But it was all him, He's saying what they're doing, but he's saying what he's doing, how all the trouble he took on. But now he's seeing the results. It happened. He understood. I know he always understood. And we'll go to the end. So then he goes from Caracas, he goes to Miami. And again, there's Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya there. Who was there? Any of you there? Were you there? Yeah. And he starts glorifying them, saying what they've done, and saying how wonderful. And then he says, someday maybe you'll be worshiping Radha Krishna. He said, but if not, he said, it's okay. He said, they're there within Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. And he said, and if you take on Radha Krishna worship, then you be very, very careful. He said, there's no offense. He said, Lord Chaitanya is very merciful, he said, but Radha Krishna worship, he said. So even you don't, he said, that's okay. So then he went to Atlanta for 3 days, some of the most historical days of Prabhupada's travels. And he arrives, and he gives the arrival address, which was just beyond. I played it. It only takes 2 minutes, but it's the most nectar-laden, just ecstatic lecture you'll hear from Prabhupada. If you just hear that one lecture, you can become Krishna conscious. So he gets there. Prabhupada's in a mood, I'm telling you. He's just, Lord Chaitanya was just, he couldn't withhold his own ecstasy anymore. It was like leaking out, little bits. It was leaking out of him. He was very controlled, Prabhupada. He never exposed anything like that. So he's there, and he sees the devotees, wonderful temple they have, beautiful Gaur Nitai deities, they're still there. And Prabhupada's overwhelmed already just seeing so many devotees advancing in Krishna consciousness. He was so delighted. Every temple he goes to, a few days here, a few days there, it's happened. The Hare Krishna movement, it's unstoppable now, There's no question, you can't stop this. And he's looking at everybody and the deities, and he said, we've come from, he said, we're in Los Angeles, Mexico City. He said, and he's looking at me, he said, and then, it's Caracas. He said, Caracas. He said, and then I said, Miami. He said, Miami. He said, and now we come here. He said, and your temple is the best. Well, everybody's, and then he said, he's looking and he said, I can't quote exactly. He says, so, Lord Chaitanya? Oh no, he says, Parama Karuna, Pahudwijana. He said, the two lords. He said, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu. He said, they're very merciful. He's seen it. He said, they're very merciful. He said, they're very easily giving Krishna. He said, Krishna, he's also very merciful. He said, but you have to surrender. He said, but Lord Chaitanya, he's so merciful, you don't even have to surrender. And his voice is cracking. He said, he's so merciful. And he just closed his eyes. And there's hundreds of us. Oh, so go on. You had something? I missed her. So then he just closed his eyes. And like you say, you can hear a pin drop. And we never knew what to do. It was such a rare occurrence, of course, and for most everyone it's only occurrence. To me now it's like Prabhupada's in ecstasy, you know. But it's very, very, it's just him. But everyone, and you become overwhelmed. And you don't even hear people chanting. You don't want to make a sound because Prabhupada's there. Anyway, chant Hare Krishna. That would be it. And then they chant Hare Krishna. Of course, the next day he taught us, he said, do you know this tune? And of course everybody, yes, Prabhupada. No one knew anything. And Prabhupada's doing the, you know, to this day, you give me a mridanga, I'll, you know, trying to do that 1, 2, 1, 2, this, and so no one knew. Prabhupada didn't like the mridanga, and he tuned it himself on the Vyasathan. He did this because it was very flat. Yeah, he didn't like. They gave him another one. Yeah. And then he had his practice, yes, and he did it. And I don't know, it was the next day that was his Guru Maharaj's appearance day. So in the temple room, of course, in the Vyasasana became Bhaktisaranta. Of course, Vyasasana, and Prabhupada had a picture next to him. And Prabhupada said, I'll do arati. So Prabhupada was doing arati. I was standing right there as assistant. I remember I just saw him at the festival in Atlanta. I was there this year for Panihati Rathayatra in Atlanta. So, which GBC, what's his name? Balavanta Prabhu. He was there. So everyone's around. Again, the temple room's jam-packed, and Prabhupada and Tulsi Devi's on the other side of where Prabhupada's offering arati to his spiritual master. Big, big painting of him. He offers the incense and getting everything ready. He's offering the camphor and the ghee lamps. And everything was 1975. So even having another arati tray with all the paraphernalia was amazing if you had more than one. Getting things, we would patch up conch shells with epoxy if they got a hole in them. We managed. So Prabhupada offers the water in the conch. And then he's looking for the bowl. The bowl's right there, right? But there's no bowl. So he's holding the conch, and he looks towards the doorway where Balavanta, and he goes, bowl. Hari bowl! Everybody's chanting in the temple room. He goes, bowl. Hari bowl! I'm so ecstatic. And he just shakes his head, and he gets it, and he flicks the water, and it spouts in the Tulsi Devi plant. It just the water went in, it just went like that, and it went into the plant. And then he continued on with the arati. And then others tell me that conch shell to blow was known as the definitely defective conch shell, and no one was going to blow it. Of course, Prabhupada blew it like it was no problem at all. Radhakund, he said there were the 3 miracles, right, that he saw. The third one was the tuning the mridanga.
First one was tuning.
Right.
Second one was water
the water, and then he blew that conch shell, which you couldn't blow it, you know, but Prabhupada blew it. So then Radhakan said he was then he knew Prabhupada was definitely the real deal, you know, so he surrendered to Prabhupada. He had a very glorious passing there in Vrindavan many years ago. Yeah. So that was that. Also, it was such a wonderful thing. When we got there, it's like March 2nd, and it's like 40 degrees. Now, we come from India, and, you know, we go through Hawaii, we go through Mexico, Caracas. I'm there literally in little Indian chappals, no socks, no jacket, no anything, you know.
40 degrees, they're thinking it's really hot.
No. It's like 3 degrees. 3 degrees. And we're dressed like it's 40 degrees, okay? So we go on the morning walk. So we come back from the walk, class, Prabhupada has his breakfast. Anyway, the whole day goes by. The next morning, it's like 5 in the morning, and he was ringing his bell, and I go in. He said, so, do you have any socks? I'm like, no, Prabhupada. He said, well, go in. He said, take some of my socks. He said, you have to, you know, he said, it's cold. And I'm Prabhupada. I said, I'm not taking your socks. I said, not possible. He said, no. He said, if I say it's okay, he said, it's okay. He said, so take my socks. And I'm thinking, all right. That's how I became with Prabhupada. I was greedy. Even his socks, I was going to wear his socks that he wore. That's how insane I am. But he said it was okay. I said, okay. And then he said, and get some for the others, Paramahamsa and Nitai. So now I got like a half a dozen pairs of socks. You know? And then he looks at me. He said, do you have shoes? I'm like, Prabhupada. I said, no, Prabhupada. I said, you know, because I knew what he was. I said, Prabhupada, I'm not taking your shoes, you know. He said, if I say it's all right, it's all right. I said, no. He said, it's okay. And I'm like, okay, Prabhupada. And right in front of him, I'm trying on socks and shoes. He said, see if they fit. Imagine the craziness of this person in front of you. And they didn't fit. I was so disturbed, you know. They wound up putting them on the Vyasa side. You know, I figured it was a small price to pay to have Prabhupada's shoes, even though I interfered in between. That was, you know. So they wound up on purpose because they didn't fit Prabhupada. They didn't fit him, and they were way too small for me. So I don't know if they were too big or too small, but Prabhupada had lotus feet, which there was no question that they were going to fit on me in any circumstance, but I still tried. Anyway, so then I went back to the boys, Paramahamsa and Nitai. Now I was going to have some fun, just like Prabhupada. And I'm in, and I said, look what Prabhupada gave me, you know, and I'm showing him all these pairs of socks. And of course, immediately they shot me down. You can't wear that Prabhupada socks, spiritual master. You know, they're going on and on. And I'm there, oh, I said, that's too bad. I said, because some of them are for you. The smarty, that changed everything immediately, you know. Oh, well, you know, if Prabhupada said, you know. He said to me, he said, it's all right, he said to me, to use your spiritual master's things while he's here. He said, but when he leaves, no more. I said, I've understood that. And I've done something really bad because I have something to offer all of you. I have a pair of Prabhupada's slippers that he wore in Japan Airlines. They have little JL emblems on them, and I was going to let everybody have. So if Madam Gopal Prabhu, you can run back to my place. In the gray backpack, if you go in there, you're going to find a little baggie or something with these slippers in them. Maybe somebody will drive you back real fast or something. No, this is a keyless property they gave. I was told they're not necessary and they don't have them, which I believe may be the first part, but I know there's a key to the door because there's a keyhole there, but I've been, you know, bamboozled by that. No problem. So yeah, you're all going to get the opportunity to get that lesson. So where was I officially? The socks. So we all happily put on these socks. So we're all walking out with these pretty saffron socks on, and Prabhupada's for the morning walk, feeling very, very warm and cared for. So that's my Prabhupada. So then the evening comes. It's massage time, Prabhupada's bedroom. I keep telling you, this is prime time. Just Prabhupada and his servant, who happened to be me this evening. And Prabhupada's laying. Again, Prabhupada's in ecstasy. I know, he's in a different realm, you know. Something happened. He's very, very ecstatic. So I'm massaging him, and he's looking across the wall, and there's a big painting of Krishna and Balaram. These guys here. And they're with lots of cowherd boys and lots of calves. And they're there in Vrindavan. And Prabhupada's just watching. I don't know, I'm just massaging him. But now I know, because he says, I like the cowherd boys very much. That's the second time he said it to me. He said it to me in May 1972 when I'm reading a Krishna book. And one time he looked at me, he said, I like the cowherd boys very much. Who doesn't? You know, who doesn't like the cowherd? I like the cowherd boys very much. So that's what he said. And then he starts telling a pastime. And he said every morning, every day, after breakfast, he said Krishna and Balaram, they would go into the forest and herd. He said they herded the calves. He says they were young boys at this time. They weren't cow herders, they were calves herders. And now you can understand their age. Yeah, every day, he said in their mothers, they would prepare tiffins for them because they spent the day. He said, so Mother Yasoda, of course, she made very nice, opulent, kachuri, he said, laglu, like that. He said, but the other cowherd boys, they didn't get the same. You know, it would be simple, rice, dal, chapati, instead of puri. He's talking like that, very calm, quietly, softly, and I'm just massaging. Everything's connected to service. One thing I see over and over again is the only time he ever was speaking to me was while I was doing some service. No, it's not like I dropped in and we just start talking. You understand that? Everything comes from service. Without service, you're not going to hear very much on the transcendental platform. And so I never would stop it. It's not like I would stop and say, yeah, go on. No, you're doing your service. You're rubbing his feet, Prabhupada's lotus feet. Sometimes if he closed his eyes, I put my head on his feet. This person who's touching him every day for like an hour, greed. See, that's how you have to be. When it's available, grab it. So if he closed his eyes for long enough, pink lotus, so soft. They were getting massaged every day with oil. His whole body was so golden and soft, but his feet were pinkish. And they were kind of cool. They weren't like warm to the touch. They were cool to the touch. And they were, I was not a person to touch anyone's feet. I don't know about anyone else, but at that time I wasn't dipping down. The Prabhupada's feet were beautiful. I never had anything to do with his nails. He was always doing his nails. He had one of these Indian, it was like that long, narrow, like a straw, rectangular, thin, silver. And on one end was like a little scoop, which he cleaned his ears with. And on the other end, it was very sharp, like razor sharp, like an X-Acto knife, but it was very, narrow. And he cut his nails with this thing, which I don't know how he did it, but that's what he did. He was always very trim. Anyway, his feet were beautiful, and I would put my head on those feet because I was with him. Imagine when you're with the pure devotee, You may be doing some service, but you're also always committing offenses, which he may say he's not seeing them, but I don't know what his friend, good friend Krishna would think about it. So I was always trying to, and that was also offensive, but I was doing it because I could. Because that was my thing, I could. So then he's saying, he continues talking, and he said, so then they go in the forest and they all had the tiffins. And of course he said then they begin playing games. And one of the games was keep away Krishna from his tiffin. And ultimately he said Krishna would wind up with what they had prepared, what their matas had prepared. And they would be eating from Krishna's tiffin, he said. And then he just looked at me. He said, I just want to go back to the spiritual world and eat kachori and bhagavad with Krishna. And he closed his eyes and didn't say another word until half hour later he went, okay. This is who we're in line with. What else does anyone want? This is where we're headed. Just hang in there. We just have to hang on. There's nowhere else to go, at least for me. Wherever it goes, I'm ready, and I'm ready and willing, and I hope nothing ever changes from that way, because it's the most wonderful future we all have. It's there in the present. As soon as you grab it, it's always been there. You just have to get there by follow me. Just do as Prabhupada would say all the time. Do as I did. That was one of his things. Do as I do, he would say. So learn what he do and do it. Learn as he does and you do that and you'll be successful. Okay? It's 8:30ish. Where does anyone, do we stop here? Final evening, a few more minutes, whatever you want. I came here for this, to be with you. So I'm not going to stop unless you stop me. But don't feel bad if who's here? Who's in charge? Anyone? Govardhan. Yes.
Prabhupada was speaking with his godbrothers.
I was with them in Mayapur when we crossed the river and went to visit Sridhar Maharaj in 1973. And I was with them when Sridhar Maharaj came across the river to Mayapur and they sat on the Vaishnava Sanga together, which for us was it was amazing. It wasn't bad amazing, it was just amazing to see Prabhupada sharing his Vaishnava Sanga with his godbrother like that for some of this. But when we went there, Maharaj, Sridhar Maharaj, his godbrother, was sitting on his bed, in a typical Indian style. Oh, thank you. Typical Indian style bed. Here, hold him. You hold. And we're greeted very nicely. Prabhupada's sitting in the chair next to his godbrother, and I'm sitting on the ground next to Prabhupada. So it begins in English, and Prabhupada's enthusiastically telling him how Prabhupada's movement, their guru's movement, is being spread all over the world now. And the best part was so many books. Bhagavatam, he's telling them all this in English. He says, and we're getting $10 a book. They're giving, and there's thousands are taking him. And he looks at me and he says, isn't that right, Srutakirti? And I'm like, yes, Prabhupada. And there's so many people coming. He says, and I would really like it, he said, if you would assist me. He said, you can go anywhere you want in America. He said, you can go to Chicago, you can go to Denver. He said, anywhere you want to go. He said, you can help me. He said, train my disciples. He said, they need so much training. He said, and Srutakirti will go with you. And he said, right, Srutakirti? And I said, yes, Prabhupada. And he said, no, Prabhupada. I don't want a different Prabhupada, I want you. But he said, he'll go. And I said, yes, Prabhupada. And Sridhar Maharaj looked at him and he said, maybe next lifetime. He said, not now. And of course, for me, it was amazing to see Prabhupada offer that to his godbrother. Because I'm thinking, Prabhupada doesn't need anyone. He's already done it all. But of course we did need so much training. That was a fact. And we still need so much training, everyone, huh? But I still didn't quite understand it. And of course me in my own never ask a question way didn't say anything. But it was wonderful exchange, and it was wonderful to be there and to see. Prabhupada was his godbrothers. You know, there was never dropping down on the ground. The godbrothers that I saw him with, they loved one another. They'd hug and embrace and laugh. Krishnadas Babaji, he was the first and the best one that I would see, hugging, laughing, giggling. Oh, I don't even know why, but they just would laugh and laugh. Maharaj, you were... Yeah, that's a whole other world. Okay, all right. So, anyway, Hari Sari and I were together 20 years ago in Alachu, and I told that story. And then he's like, wow. He said, I went through the same thing with Prabhupada. He said, 1976. What was in Brahman or Mayapur, I'm not even sure. Anyway, he said, and Prabhupada went through the same thing, saying, please come and help, and like that, and come and preach in the West. He said, but I asked Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada, you've never done any, why did you, did you need, did you feel, like he too, we're all thinking the same thing. And Prabhupada said, he said, before our Guru Maharaj left, he said, it was in Bombay, he said, and he instructed me. He said that our Sridhar Maharaj is very qualified. Understands the philosophy, everything very well. He said, but he's very shy. He doesn't want to go out. This is 1935. He's saying this to our Prabhupada. He said, so you encourage him to preach. Imagine the depth of Prabhupada's following his spiritual master. Talk about depth. Every time Prabhupada saw him, he would say, you please come. Every time. That was his instruction. He never stopped following that one instruction as well as all the other instructions, whatever he got. And I'm sure if it would have happened, it would have been a wonderful experience. Of course, Prabhupada, then, I didn't conclude that story after Atlanta. I'm sorry, I wanted to put the conclusion on it. So then Prabhupada goes from Atlanta, and then he went to London, and he went into ecstasy in London, or at the Manor on the Vaishnava Sanga, same thing. He just talking and he just couldn't, he's looking at the deities, I'm sure Prabhupada's, like we say, you're seeing Krishna everywhere, but when Prabhupada's looking at the deities, he's definitely seeing Krishna's form right in front of him there. And Krishna's talking to him, he can talk to Krishna, and Krishna talks to him. So anyway, he went into ecstasy that day, but I'll just say very quickly. And then we went off to Tehran, Iran, where Atreya Rishi at that time, Naviovana Prabhu, our godbrother, was there at that time. He spent a few days there. Then they came to Mayapur. So now Prabhupada gives the arrival address there. And he's talking again about this mercy. Now he's back at the land where it came from, Mayapur Dham. He's at the very essence. He's at the birthplace. And he goes into ecstasy on the Vaishnava Sanga speaking. And within a few seconds, you hear this very loud voice from behind the Vaishnava Sanga. Namo Vishnu Padaya. And Prabhupada's eyes open up. And the kirtan began. And it went on. So then, of course, by the end of the kirtan, lots of disagreement. Why did he do that? Because we wanted. If it was an hour, some of us would have just sat there enjoying seeing Prabhupada being what we know he is, but we didn't get the opportunity. So there were disagreements. We're going up the stairs, we're all arguing, and me and Brahmananda are walking up. We went up with Prabhupada. Brahmananda's having discussions with others how to resolve this question, this very perplexing question. Anyway, before all this happens, Prabhupada has this greeting meeting in his room. Bhavananda, Jayapataka Maharaj, Treya Rishi's there, I'm there. And Jayapataka's glorifying Prabhupada, offering prayers. And Prabhupada's enjoying this beautiful building now, its completion. The floor is shiny, shiny, shiny. He's polished and polished the marble veranda. And he's saying it's so beautiful. Jayapataka, of course, says, Prabhupada, this is all you're doing. You know, what you have done, it's wonderful here. It's never been done before. Prabhupada said, no, he said, it's Krishna's direction. He said, he's given me some direction, he said. But it's his, he is done. And then Prabhupada says, it's all the mercy of my Guru Maharaj. He said, it's his mercy. And then he says, now again, remember what I'm saying. This is all continuity here. Prabhupada's just, he says, well, he said, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he had predicted that someone would spread this movement all over the world and bring everyone, all the different languages to this place and establish a very big temple. And then he said something to the words, and you can find it in database, so you can look for yourself if you think there's inaccuracies, but he said something to the effect, that person may be me. And then he looked at Jayapataka, and he said, so what types of bananas are you planting? So that's all you're going to get from Prabhupada. You've got to learn yourself. You know, this is all the big questions of the day, who this Prabhupada is. And the more I see all these discussions, the more I understand that none of us know anything. We don't know our own Swarup, we don't know Prabhupada's Swarup. So why let everyone know? I'll tell you, I don't know. You know, all I know is I'm in this body very deeply and hoping Prabhupada yanks me at the appropriate moment. But Prabhupada said that one thing and boom, you're finished. He starts talking about the banana trees and then he looks at them again and he said, so we have these Sarabi cows here. They can tolerate the heat very well, but they don't give very much milk. He said, and in the West I know, he said in Europe, they have cows that give 100 pounds of milk, he said, in milking. He said, so if you can combine the two, he said, you can have a cow can tolerate the heat and give much more milk. Which is very funny, seeing statements that are being made nowadays within our society, especially coming out of India. They talk about type A milk from this cow, type B milk. Prabhupada was trying to combine a Sarabi with another cow to get more milk. You know, we're all saying these poor cows, and Prabhupada's saying, let's get more from them for Krishna. Give them more service to do, and combine the two types. So he didn't think anything about this type A is good for you, this one's bad for you. All these different things. So many, so many rules and regulations. He said, please just chant Hare Krishna and follow the principles and help me. He said, that's what he said to Hanuman after he left his sannyas ashram, saying, Prabhupada, can I do anything? Prabhupada said, you're grahasta like Srutakirti, he said. He said, do something. He said, I need all the help I can get. He said, I'm not Lord Chaitanya. He said he was dancing through the forest, the animals were following him dancing. He said, I need all the help I can get. Of course, that was also a little bit, because what are we? We were the dancing animals he made. You know, I know myself, I was worse than tigers and lions and bears. They stick to their, you decide for yourself, but he made us dance, and he's still making us dance. But he said that. So that came from me when he said to me, maybe my father knew. So Prabhupada, that was my conclusion that I'm seeing. Prabhupada was also growing in his own. He didn't know how far he was taking this. Maybe he did. I'm sorry, again, that's my idea. But is what I feel, I saw, was him seeing, it's done. It has been done. This is going to go on and on. And the only people that can spoil this, we're looking at them, it's us. As he said, only from the inside. Nothing can touch Prabhupada society, this society. Only we can make it work or finish it off. It's all in our hands. So we have big, big responsibility. And is all we have to do is endeavor. And if within the endeavor it all crumbles, that's also okay. Our business is to try, not to think, nah, not worth trying. Prabhupada never gave up. What did he say? Not through the repression and depression, oppression. What was the 3 words he used? Nothing was going to stop him. Jai. Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. Vaishnava Sanga Festival, Ki Jai. Now if you all want, however, I'll kind of keep them around, but if you'd like, we'll just put Prabhupada. I got these slippers. I had hundreds of things Prabhupada gave me. These he didn't give me. I took them off of the flight when it was done. And they're just a simple little thing, and that's why I was able to keep them, because it didn't require any space. So these are just little Japan Airlines slippers that he wore for the flight. So somehow or other they showed up like a year or so ago. They've been in storage for a very long time. It's not necessary, but if you like, you can have a little mercy for Prabhupada's feet. They're available everywhere, but these were personally on his feet, so it is kind of... I was raised a Catholic, and there were 3 kinds of relics: first, second, third class. First class was a piece of the person's body, like second class was something you wore. Third class was something that was touched to the body of it. So these are certainly, I always want to keep them. So where do we start? Maharaj. And of course, we'll put this part on the heads here, because this is the part about Srila Prabhupada, God, legs. We'll do this very quickly, please. There's many of you here. This is what I went for all the time. It's Prabhupada's lotus feet. And avoid. Okay, yes.